bakers, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are making one of my favorite summertime desserts, key lime pie bars. These bars are so tart and tangy, very refreshing, and I love to serve them straight from the refrigerator or even better, straight from the freezer. They come together in minutes and they are made with a simple cookie crust, and we're making them in bar form today because they're so much easier to make than pie. So our brown butter is all done. What a beauty! Amazing. Just like magic, you guys. To be honest, I don't really enjoy making pie. I do like to eat pie, but making pie is a whole different story. But these key lime pie bars are so easy to make and they're absolutely irresistible straight from the refrigerator. I'm so excited to show you how to make these key lime pie bars, but before we get started, let me share with you the equipment and ingredients that you need to make the recipe. First, we're gonna start with just a bowl and a whisk. That's all you need to make these bars. I do have a hand mixer set aside for when we make the whipped cream, but you can also use a bowl and a whisk for that step if you prefer. We also have an 8x8 inch pan. This one is nice and square with very straight edges, which makes perfect key lime pie bars. For our ingredients, we have a lot of the usual suspects that you would see for a traditional cookie crust. Instead of using graham crackers like many key lime pies do, we are going to use a vanilla wafer crust. So delicious. So I have about 2 cups of vanilla wafers that are crushed into a nice fine crumb. And we're going to combine that with a little bit of brown sugar and some melted butter. Once our crust is made, we'll make the key lime pie filling from sweetened condensed milk. We're going to use 5 egg yolks. We have the juice from about 12 limes, and we're going to also use a little bit of lime zest, and then we'll finish it all off with a layer of whipped cream. Okay, let's talk about limes for just a second. You might notice that these are actually not key limes. We were not able to find any key limes. It's a little early in the season here in California, so I'm just going to use regular limes for this recipe today. Rest assured, I have tested it both ways, and the key lime pie bars are just as delicious with regular limes. So when in a pinch, regular limes will do just fine. Regular limes are just a little bit less aromatic and a little bit less tart than key limes, but they're delicious. No one will know. Before we make our cookie crust, we're going to line our 8x8 inch pan with parchment paper on both sides. So I'm just gonna take a couple pieces of parchment paper and just gonna trim this down really quickly. Doesn't need to be perfect. You just wanna line the bottom and sides of the pan so that after the bars are made, you can easily pull them out of the pan. Perfect, so we're gonna put that side down and repeat the same thing with one more piece of parchment. This makes cleanup really easy too. So you'll just slide those bars right out of the pan and your pan will be super easy to wash. Okay, press that down. Okay. Done is better than perfect. This looks great. So I'm gonna set these scraps aside and I'm gonna grab a little bit of nonstick baking spray just so we can get these parchment pieces to sit nice and flat. And that's gonna help us get a really nice edge on our bars so that they look really pretty when we go to slice them. One more little spray here. And let's set that other piece in. Now, these are just simple little binder clips. They're all metal, so they do just fine in the oven. We're just gonna take those and slide them on to the sides of the pan. And this will help hold that parchment down so it doesn't get in the way of your pretty bars. Okay, so our pan is all ready. It's nice and secure, and we're ready to make our cookie crust. To make our cookie crust, we're just gonna add 2 cups of vanilla wafer crumbs to a bowl. And then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of light brown sugar and 6 tablespoons of unsalted melted butter that has been cooled for about 10 minutes. Just gonna scrape all that butter in. Perfect. Okay, so we have all of our ingredients in the bowl and we are just going to use a fork to mix this together. So I'm just gonna gently take the fork and spread that butter around so that all of the cookie crumbs are getting coated in the butter. And at the same time, You're mixing in those little bits of brown sugar, which adds a little bit of extra sweetness to the crust. So just keep mixing. You want to make sure that all of the cookie crumbs are coated in the butter so that nothing looks too dry. This will help give you a nice, firm cookie base for the key lime pie bars. And it's delicious. I love to use these vanilla cookie crumbs instead of graham crackers because they have a slightly sweeter, mellower flavor. They're really good with key lime pie bars. You can see that this kind of resembles wet sand, and all of our little bits of cookie are coated in butter, ready to go. We're gonna take our 8x8-inch pan that's lined in parchment paper, and we're gonna pour the cookie crust right in. I'm just gonna get in there and grab all those extra little pieces and set that aside. And then I'm just gonna use my hands right now to just sort of press it into the corners of the pan while I level the top to kind of make things even. So I'm just using my hands. We're kind of leveling the top, pressing the cookie crumbs into the corners. And you can use your hands for this whole process, but I like to grab the flat side of a measuring cup. And we're just gonna take that and press the cookie crumbs all the way down, giving you a nice, firm layer at the bottom. And this really helps the crust hold together when you go to slice the bars later. So you just kind of move around the pan, pressing in. You can use a glass for this. Anything with a flat bottom will give you the same effect. Okay, that looks pretty good. So here you can see you've got your nice cookie base. We're gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 13 to 15 minutes until it's just barely golden brown and the edges of the crust have started to pull away from the sides of the pan. In she goes. While our crust is baking, we're gonna get started with making our key lime pie filling. We're gonna start with separating our eggs. I have 5 large eggs here and they're at room temperature, and I'm gonna separate the whites and the yolks, and then we'll put the yolks into the bowl for the filling. So let's get started. We're gonna do this in a separate bowl, so I'm just gonna place the white here in one bowl and separate out the yolk. And then I'm gonna put the yolk into this bowl and my discards in that bowl. And we'll do it again. Come on. Oh wow, look at the difference in color of these yolks. That is wild.
Unreal.
Okay, third egg. So you just want to be careful that you're not getting a lot of white or really any eggshell in with the yolks. This is egg number 4. Fun fact, it is actually easier to separate eggs when they're cold. So you could do this while the eggs are cold and then just let them sit out at room temperature until you need to use them. Okay, that is our last yolk. You can save those egg whites to make macarons, or maybe you want to make a angel food cake. You do you, but those are perfectly good egg whites that you can save and use for another recipe. All right, we're gonna add our egg yolks to the bowl. Just gonna make sure we get all of that yolk in. Perfect. And then I'm going to zest some of our lime right over those egg yolks. We're gonna use the zest of about 2 regular limes. If you're using key limes, you're gonna need to use a little bit more because they're smaller limes. And this is gonna really add some nice lime, zesty, tangy flavor to these key lime bars. We're gonna go ahead and zest 1 more lime. Okay, that looks great. Plenty of lime zest in there. So I'm just gonna set that aside, and I'm gonna give this a little whisk just to combine those yolks and that zest together. Just a really quick stir. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our sweetened condensed milk. This is almost 2 cans of sweetened condensed milk, and I've just got it at room temperature. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that, whoop, right in the bowl. All of it goes in. And this adds a lot of sweetness to our key lime pie bars without adding any added sugar. And we're gonna whisk this together. The sweetened condensed milk is a little bit stiff at first, so you kind of just wanna wiggle your whisk around the bowl in some small motions at first. Kind of loosen that sweetened condensed milk up a little bit. And then you can give it a full stir. Oh my goodness, these are gonna be so creamy. The filling is just a dream. It bakes up so perfectly. It's kind of soft and custard-like. That looks all combined really nicely. It's nice and thick, creamy. We've got all that lime zest inside. The filling looks terrific. We're gonna go ahead and add our lime juice. This is about 1 cup of lime juice. And again, I'm using the regular limes today. So pour that right in. If you want to use the key lime juice and you can find some key limes, even better. And we're just gonna stir this together carefully, trying to keep that filling in the bowl. You're gonna whisk this together just for about a minute, just to make sure that all of those ingredients are nicely combined and that you get that thick texture back, so it's not too watery or runny after adding that lime juice. Okay, so we have all of our filling ingredients now incorporated in the bowl. This looks perfect, nice and creamy, nice and thick, and we're gonna pour this right on top of our crust. We have our baked crust right here. It's a beautiful golden brown and it smells delicious, fresh out of the oven, and we're gonna add our filling right on top of the crust. So I'm just gonna set this whisk aside. So we're just gonna pour that right on top. It's nice and smooth. Oh my gosh, so good. That is gonna be such a beautiful layer of key lime pie filling. I'm just gonna grab this spatula and scrape down the sides of the bowl and get all of that in there. Okay, that looks perfect and it smells so delicious. We're gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 15 to 17 minutes until the filling is set. In she goes. Once the bars were baked, we set them on the counter to cool for about 30 minutes at room temperature, and then you'll need to chill the bars for at least 3 hours or overnight. So these bars have been completely chilled and we're ready to add our whipped cream topping. To make our whipped cream, we're gonna start with 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Perfect. And I am going to add that to a medium bowl. And we want to sweeten that up just a little bit. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. And then we're just going to whisk that up until we get firm, stiff peaks. Okay, our whipped cream is just about ready. I think it actually looks perfect, just like that. So you want to overbeat it where it splits and starts to look a little bit funky. You want to just get it nice and smooth and super creamy. And we will go ahead and scoop this right on to the top of our bars. And this is going to make that final 3rd layer. So good. You can't have a key lime pie without whipped cream. And I'm just gonna take my offset spatula and gently push the cream into the corners of the pan while I level the top. And you wanna work a little bit quickly because the whipped cream is cold and you wanna get this back into the refrigerator to set right away. So we're just leveling the top and making sure that all of the corners are covered. This is a nice thick layer of whipped cream. It's gonna be so good and it makes for such a pretty bar when you slice them. So excited to eat these. Okay, that looks great. I'm just gonna smooth it out one more time all the way around, making it nice and flat. Perfect. Oh, shoot. Perfect, that looks great. And then we are going to add a little bit more lime zest to the top of the bars. So I'm just gonna gently zest a little bit more lime right onto the top. This makes the bars look super pretty when you slice, serve them, and adds a little bit more of that zesty lime flavor. Perfect, that looks great. Okay, these are gonna go into the refrigerator for about 30 minutes and then we'll be ready to slice them. Our key lime pie bars are out of the refrigerator. Actually, little secret, I put them in the freezer because I really wanted to slice into them sooner. So they are perfectly chilled and we're gonna take them out of the pan and slice them with a very sharp, hot knife. So let's take these little binder clips off. And I'm just gonna use the parchment paper overhang to carefully pull the bars out of the pan. And we will set them right here. And as I pull back the parchment paper, you can see that pretty layer of the key lime pie custard. All right, so I have my really sharp knife and my very cold key lime pie bars, and we're gonna slice right into them. So you can see these beautiful triple layer bars. Here you can see those beautiful layers. You've got that crunchy cookie crust, and then the zesty key lime pie filling, and then a nice thick layer of heavy whipped cream, and a little bit of lime zest on top. Make sure to clean your knife in between each slice. That way you get really clean, perfect slices. So delicious. When you slice the bars, you want to make sure that you press down firmly, and then you're gonna lift straight up. Okay, let's take a bite of these bars. You can see these 3 layers are so pretty all together, and this is just such a cloud-like, beautiful bar. So let's take a bite. That is so good. These bars are just so dreamy. They're tart and tangy in all the right places, and that delicious layer of whipped cream on top really just seals the deal. And don't forget about that crunchy cookie crust on the bottom. So good, made with vanilla wafers. I don't even want to share these, so I think I'm gonna hide them from my family. I hope you'll give this recipe a try. You can grab the recipe down in the show notes. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think, and happy baking.